The holographic sky of Galactica 7 Ecological Station shimmered with its artificial dawn, casting purple-orange light across the training grounds of the Interplanetary Survival Academy. Maya Rivers stood at attention among 24 other cadets, her human frame noticeably different among the varied anatomies of her classmates. Her standard-issue gray uniform felt stiff against her skin, the badge on her chest displaying Earth, baseline human, in bold lettering. Commander Ral, a towering Andarian with iridescent skin that shifted colors with his emotions, paced before them. His current shade of deep blue indicated seriousness as he addressed the assembled cadets. Today's exercise is the Predator Avoidance game. His voice resonated through the assembly area. It tests your ability to remain undetected while navigating hostile terrain. The objective is simple: reach the extraction beacon without being tagged by our X-9 Predator drones. Maya listened intently, mentally cataloging every detail. This was her opportunity to prove herself. Since arriving at the Academy 3 months ago, she'd battled the unspoken perception that humans were the baseline against which other species' enhanced capabilities were measured. In the hierarchy of the Interplanetary Alliance, Earthborn humans were respected for their diplomatic contributions, but often dismissed in tactical scenarios. The simulation environment includes tropical rainforest, swampland, and arid plateau regions. Rahl continued, gesturing to the massive biodome behind him. Weather patterns will shift throughout the 8-hour exercise. Your performance today determines your placement in advanced survival tracks. Maya scanned her competition. To her right stood Taln, a reptilian cadet from Proxima Centauri's third moon. His scaled skin glistened with natural oils, and his vertical pupils contracted in the brightening light. He caught her glance and flicked his forked tongue dismissively. On her left was Laura, an insectoid cadet whose compound eyes seemed to analyze everything simultaneously. Her exoskeleton clicked softly as she shifted position. "Deployment lists are being transmitted now," Rahl announced. Maya's wristband illuminated with her assignment details. She frowned as she read the equipment allocation: standard knife, water purification tablets, and a small pouch of moisturizing mud. Nothing else. Around her, excited murmurs erupted as other cadets received their technology packages. Taln was practically gloating as he reviewed his list. "Adaptive camouflage cloak and thermal dampeners," he hissed toward Maya, loud enough for nearby cadets to hear. "What did you get, human? A stick and some dirt?" Laughter rippled through the group. Maya kept her expression neutral, but her jaw tightened. She had anticipated equipment disparities. Standard procedure for these exercises was to allocate resources based on species' natural capabilities, but this seemed deliberately minimal. "Cadets," Rahl's voice cut through the chatter, "your allocations reflect the Academy's assessment of your natural advantages and disadvantages. This is not about equal resources, but equal challenge." Maya caught Rahl looking directly at her as he spoke. Was that sympathy in his gaze, or expectation? She couldn't tell. "Report to deployment stations in 15 minutes. The exercise begins precisely at 700 hours. As the group dispersed, Maya made her way to the preparation area. Each cadet had a small cubicle to review simulation parameters and collect their allocated equipment. Maya's station was stark compared to others. While Taln was fitting his high-tech camouflage cloak and calibrating sensor equipment, Maya found only a sealed package containing her knife, tablets, and the promised pouch of specially formulated mud that would keep human skin from dehydrating in varying environments. "This is absurd," she muttered, turning the pouch over in her hands. 8 hours evading military-grade detection drones with mud and a knife? A shadow fell across her cubicle. Laura stood there, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "They say Earth humans survived as prey species before becoming apex predators," she said, her translated voice carrying an artificial cadence. "Perhaps this is a test of that evolutionary memory." Before Maya could respond, Laura moved away, her allocated stealth suit already activating, bending light around her form. Maya considered Laura's words as she examined the map of the simulation zone on her wristband. The biodome spanned 5 square kilometers, with the extraction beacon placed at the far northern end. The tropical zone was closest to her entry point, followed by swampland, and finally, the arid plateau where the beacon waited. Evolutionary memory, she repeated to herself. Prey species. Something clicked in her mind. She wasn't meant to outgun or outtech the drones. She was meant to think like prey. Maya slipped the knife into her boot and secured the water tablets in her pocket. The mud pouch she examined more carefully. It wasn't just moisturizer. The composition included minerals that could potentially mask certain signatures. It wasn't high-tech camouflage, but it was something. A tone sounded, indicating 5 minutes until deployment. Maya closed her eyes briefly, remembering her training before the academy. 3 years in Earth's Wilderness Corps, specializing in survival scenarios across Earth's most challenging environments. Before that, growing up in the reclaimed wildlands of North America, where her parents worked as ecological engineers. I don't need their tech, she whispered to herself. I just need to remember. The final tone sounded. Maya took a deep breath and stepped onto her deployment pad. The transparent tube around her illuminated, and she felt the slight disorientation of being transported into the simulation environment. When the light faded, she found herself at the edge of a dense, tropical forest. The humidity immediately clung to her skin, and the rich scent of vegetation filled her nostrils. In the distance, a synthetic bird call echoed, her first hint that the predator drones had been activated. Without hesitation, Maya slipped into the underbrush, moving with deliberate care. Her first priority wasn't reaching the beacon. It was understanding this environment and gathering what she needed. The academy expected her to run, to behave like typical prey, fleeing in panic. But Maya knew better. She needed to become part of this environment, not just move through it. For the first hour, Maya focused solely on collection. She gathered fallen leaves, clay-rich soil from beneath rotting logs, and specific plants she recognized as having adhesive sap. At a small stream, she collected more mud, testing its consistency between her fingers. Working methodically, she combined these materials with her allocated mud pouch, creating a mixture that would serve multiple purposes, masking her scent, disguising her human silhouette, and regulating her body temperature. As she worked, Maya kept perfectly still whenever the artificial birds fell silent, a sign that drones were passing nearby. Twice, she froze, half submerged in a muddy embankment, as detection devices hummed overhead, scanning for heat signatures and movement patterns. By the second hour, Maya had transformed herself. Her uniform was now completely covered in layers of mud, leaves, and forest debris, breaking up her human outline. She had observed enough of the drone patterns to understand their search algorithms. They were programmed to detect technological signatures first, then biological patterns that deviated from the environment's baseline. With careful movements, Maya began her journey northward, toward the swamplands. She didn't walk upright as a human would. Instead, she adapted her movement to mimic the local fauna, sometimes on all fours, like the small mammals she'd observed. Sometimes, slithering across open spaces on her belly like reptiles. In the distance, she heard the distinctive sound of a tag, a high-pitched tone followed by a flash of red light. Someone had been eliminated. Maya smiled grimly. The game was progressing. The tropical zone gave way to swampland by mid-morning. Here, the challenge intensified. Standing water meant heat signatures would be more visible, and the open areas between vegetation patches offered less cover. Maya observed the environment from the boundary, planning her route carefully. She spotted movement to her left, a shimmer in the air that betrayed an active camouflage cloak. One of her fellow cadets was making their way through the swamp, visible only because their technology created a slight distortion in the natural light patterns. Maya remained motionless, watching as a drone suddenly descended from above, its sensors pulsing. A red beam shot out, tagging the cloaked cadet. The elimination tone sounded, and the camouflage failed, revealing a frustrated Arcturian cadet. "Simulation participant eliminated," announced an automated voice. "Please proceed to extraction." Maya waited until both the drone and the eliminated cadet had departed before analyzing what had happened. The cloak had failed because the cadet had moved too quickly, creating ripples in the water that didn't match the environment's patterns. Technology alone wasn't enough. Understanding natural movement was key. For the swamp crossing, Maya adopted a new strategy. She collected cattail reeds and fashioned them into a small floating platform, just large enough to support her upper body. Then, submerging most of herself in the murky water, she used subtle leg movements beneath the surface to propel herself forward, making it appear as if the reeds were simply drifting with the current. The journey through the swamp took nearly 3 hours, twice more. Maya witnessed other cadets being eliminated, once when a drone detected a technological signature from a sensor device, and again when another cadet's breathing pattern registered as too regular and controlled compared to the natural fauna. By early afternoon, Maya reached the final zone, the arid plateau. This would be the most challenging environment. Less vegetation meant fewer hiding places, and the dry conditions would make any moisture, including human sweat, stand out to advanced sensors. Maya paused at the edge of the plateau, concealed in the last patches of swamp vegetation. She needed a new approach. Her mud coating had served her well in the humid environments, but here it would dry and crack, potentially creating a distinctive pattern that drones could identify. She studied the plateau carefully. The terrain was dotted with rock formations and sparse, drought-resistant vegetation. Small, lizard-like creatures darted between shadows, and dust devils swirled occasionally across the open spaces. Inspired by the lizards, Maya collected dry soil and mixed it with the remaining mud from her pouch, creating a powdery substance that matched the plateau's coloration. She applied this to her skin and clothing, then gathered dried grass and attached it to her back and limbs, creating a texture that would break up her silhouette when viewed from above. For movement, she would need to time her progress with natural events, moving when the dust swirled, freezing when the air was still, traveling during the artificial dusk when shadows lengthened. Maya was preparing to move when she heard voices nearby. Remaining perfectly still, she listened. "This is ridiculous," came Talon's distinctive hissing whisper. "My cloak's moisture regulators failed in that swamp. The mud got into everything." "Same with my thermal dampeners," replied another voice, one of the mammalian cadets from Titan. "These conditions weren't in the specs for our equipment." Maya suppressed a smile. The high-tech solutions were failing against the simulation's deliberately harsh conditions. The Academy was testing adaptability, not equipment reliability. "Has anyone spotted the human?" Talon asked. "Rivers. I expected her to be eliminated in the first hour." "No sign of her," the Titan cadet replied. "Probably hiding in a hole somewhere." Maya remained motionless until they moved on, then carefully began her approach to the plateau. As she emerged from the swamp's edge, she immediately pressed herself against the ground, spreading her limbs to distribute her weight and minimize pressure points that might create recognizable patterns. The plateau crossing would require extreme patience. Maya moved only inches at a time, synchronizing her movements with environmental events: a gust of wind, a cloud passing over the artificial sun, the scurrying of native creatures. 4 hours into the exercise, a new challenge was introduced. The sky darkened suddenly as the simulation shifted to an accelerated dusk phase. A computerized announcement echoed across the biodome. "Phase 2 initiated. Enhanced detection protocols activated." Maya watched as the drones reconfigured, their forms shifting as new components deployed. They now moved in pairs, creating overlapping detection fields. She also noticed they had activated some form of partial invisibility, becoming translucent against the darkening sky. This changed everything. Maya realized the drones were now equipped with seismic sensors, detecting vibrations through the ground. Standard walking, even crawling, would create rhythmic patterns identifiable as bipedal movement. Drawing on her knowledge of Earth's predator-prey dynamics, Maya recalled how certain prey animals moved to avoid detection by vibration-sensing predators. She deliberately disjointed her movements, never creating a predictable rhythm. She'd move one limb, pause for varying intervals, then move another. For the most exposed sections of the plateau, Maya employed her most extreme technique. Breaking several fingers of dry vegetation, she scattered them ahead of her path. When the wind blew or drones moved elsewhere, she would advance rapidly, stepping precisely on these scattered pieces to create sounds and vibrations that mimicked the local fauna. By the time the simulation entered its final hour, Maya had made significant progress across the plateau. The extraction beacon was visible now, pulsing with blue light atop a rock formation half a kilometer ahead. Around it, drones circled in complex patterns, creating an almost impenetrable detection grid. Maya settled behind a rock outcropping to observe and plan her final approach. As she watched, she noticed movement to her right, a slight distortion in the air that betrayed another cloaked cadet approaching the beacon. It was Talon. Despite his equipment failures, he had managed to reach this final stage. His approach was direct but careful, using the rock formations for cover as he advanced toward the beacon. Maya observed his technique with grudging respect. He was good, timing his movements between drone sweeps, minimizing his exposure. But she also noticed his fatal flaw. He was thinking like a hunter, not like prey. His movements were too purposeful, too directed. The drones would detect that predatory intent. Sure enough, as Talon neared the beacon, two drones suddenly broke from their pattern and converged on his position. He froze, his cloak shimmering slightly as it adjusted to the changing light conditions. For a moment, it seemed he might evade detection. Then, a small cloud of dust rose from where his foot had disturbed the ground too forcefully. The drone's sensors pulsed, and twin red beams shot out, converging on Talon's position. "Simulation participant eliminated," came the announcement. Talon's cloak failed, revealing his reptilian form. He hissed in frustration, throwing his malfunctioning technology to the ground before stomping toward the extraction point. Maya remained perfectly still, processing what she had seen. The drones were now hunting for intent as much as physical signatures. To reach the beacon, she would need to appear purposeless. As the final minutes of the exercise approached, Maya implemented her last strategy. Instead of trying to hide her presence completely, she deliberately created multiple false signatures around the perimeter of the beacon area, dropping small mud balls that would register as heat blips, tossing pebbles to create subtle vibrations. While the drones investigated these distractions, Maya employed her most counterintuitive technique yet. Rather than creeping or hiding, she simply stood and walked directly toward the beacon. But with a critical difference. She moved with the loose-limbed, meandering gait of an animal with no specific destination. Her eyes unfocused slightly, her arms swung with natural irregularity, and her path wavered as if she were simply wandering. The drone's algorithms, programmed to detect purposeful movement toward the objective, failed to register her approach as that of a participant. She was neither hiding nor hunting. She simply existed in the space, moving through it as naturally as any indigenous creature. With less than a minute remaining in the exercise, Maya reached the beacon. She paused, looking directly at the nearest drone hovering just meters away, its sensors scanning but not registering her as a target. Then, with deliberate casualness, she reached out and placed her hand on the beacon. The entire simulation environment froze. The artificial sky turned white, and all drones immediately powered down. Maya stood alone at the center of the plateau, covered in dried mud and vegetation. her human form barely recognizable beneath her natural camouflage. Commander Raoul's voice echoed through the now stark environment. Exercise complete. All participants report to central evaluation. As the simulation dissolved around her, Maya found herself standing on the central platform of the Academy's assessment chamber. Surrounding her were the eliminated cadets, their expressions ranging from surprise to disbelief as they saw who had completed the challenge. Taln pushed to the front of the group, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he took in Maya's mud-covered form. "Impossible," he hissed. "You had nothing, no technology, no enhanced senses." Maya met his gaze steadily, but said nothing. Her accomplishment spoke for itself. Commander Raoul approached, his skin now pulsing with greens and golds, colors of approval and interest. "Cadet Rivers," he addressed her formally. "You have demonstrated exceptional understanding of the exercise's true purpose. While others relied on allocated technology that was deliberately designed to fail under environmental stress, you adapted using minimal resources and maximum observational intelligence." He turned to address the entire group. The Predator avoidance game is not about evading detection through superior technology. It is about understanding the fundamental nature of predator-prey dynamics across all environments. Cadet Rivers achieved this by becoming environmentally invisible, not through technological concealment, but through behavioral adaptation. The commander's display screen showed replay footage of Maya's journey through the 3 environments. The cadets watched in silence as her techniques were highlighted. The natural mud camouflage, the disjointed movement patterns, the final approach that confused the drone's targeting algorithms. Cadet Rivers exhibited what we call existence without signature. Raoul continued. No technological footprint, no predictable biological patterns, no detectable intent. This is the highest form of environmental integration. Maya stood quietly as the assessment concluded, the dried mud on her skin beginning to crack and flake away. She felt a strange pride, not just in completing the challenge, but in reconnecting with something primal and essential that transcended technology. As the cadets were dismissed, Laura approached Maya, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. "You understood what the rest of us missed," the insectoid cadet said. "We were so focused on hiding our presence that we forgot how to simply exist within the environment." Maya nodded. "Earth has been training humans in survival for millions of years before we invented our first tool. Sometimes the oldest lessons are the most valuable." Later that evening, Maya received her new assignment on her wristband. The screen displayed Elite Survival Corps, Special Training Track, Advisor, Commander Raoul. She looked up at the artificial night sky of Galactica 7 through her dormitory window, the simulated stars twinkling with programmed randomness. Somewhere beyond those false stars was Earth, where humans had once been prey before they became predators, where they had learned to survive by understanding rather than dominating. Maya smiled to herself. In an age of interplanetary travel and advanced technology, it was those ancient instincts, the knowledge stored in human DNA from countless generations of survival, that had proven most valuable. The Interplanetary Academy might classify humans as baseline, but that baseline contained depths of evolutionary wisdom that no technology could replicate. Tomorrow she would begin specialized training, teaching other species the subtle art of existing without signature, the true power of the prey that survived to become more.